everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a number of works by the cartoonist Alex Nall. Alex's work is something that I was exposed to through Partners and Sons. Partners and Sons send me this first issue of Town and County, and I think I've reviewed some of these in isolation. I know I spoke about this in isolation in that Partners and Sons grab bag video I did. But now that I have a bigger chunk of Alex's work and I understand the scope of it a little better, I really wanted to cover it all together because the project is shaping up to be the thing that I was really excited and hoping it was when I read the first issue. And then I've gone back and got as much of Alex's work as he still has. There's one book that I haven't got yet. This book here is autobiographical. The other ones are not, but this kind of sets the tone for one of the things that I like about Alex's work is he has his sense about humanity really speaks to me. His kind of interest in human behavior and his gracefulness towards other people I think is really great. And it's set by this book here for me. He opens with, the authentic spiritual life finds its basis in the human condition, which all people, whether they're Christian or not, have in common. And I think that's behind a lot of Alex's work, is this authentic kind of love for the human and the human condition and the commonalities. And so this book is about, Alex is a teacher in an elementary school. His partner at the time is also a teacher, and he has a friend who's teaching as well, I think. And they're just talking about the struggles of being teachers. Here you see him struggling in particular with one kid in his class named Kevin, who's kind of like the troubled child. And so Alex turns to Mr. Rogers. He really likes Mr. Rogers. He thinks that Mr. Rogers has this great view about humanity. He seems to have an infinite capacity for love for other people and stuff, and he's been watching these Mr. Rogers shows to kind of relieve his own anxiety, and he's looking for answers in there about how to relate to the kids and how to deal with the kids. So that sets up the framework, the autobiographical framework for the book, which also lets him do a biography of Mr. Rogers and like what he's learned while researching Mr. Rogers. Here he's talking to his partner, and she says, "Every day feels the same. At the end of each class, I always wonder, do these kids think I'm a fraud?" And that's exactly right. Every friend of mine who's gone into teaching, when we talk behind doors, goes, "Oh my God, like I feel like such a fraud," but they treat me like I'm the expert. And I think that's just common for everyone. But I can imagine, especially dealing with kids. Right before I reread this, I had to go do a presentation at an elementary school, and oh my God, I don't know how anyone does that. But bless them. Thank goodness we need them. So he's going back, and he's saying, watching these episodes now, it's impossible to ignore that Mr. Rogers is in love with every person on his show. Children, adults, complete strangers. He regards them with respect of the highest order. What happened in his life that made him have such a refined faith in people? So that's the search that he goes through in the book. And you then get a mix of the autobiographical stuff and the biographical stuff. I don't want to give away too much because I think everyone should read it. One interesting thing that I didn't know is that the insinuation here, at least the implication, is that George Romero worked on Mr. Rogers. You have this character named George come in and ask one of the actors if she wants to play Barbara in this zombie picture he's making, and Mr. Rogers said, "Well, I don't think we want anyone from our show showing up on that." There's also some points where Mr. Rogers has the black gentleman who's playing the mailman on his show was gay and wants Mr. Rogers to do the same thing that he's doing for the black community, for the gay community, and he's like, "No, we can't do that, and you better not come out." So showing that he had his flaws as well. And there's actually a page in here somewhere where Alex is wondering why, when you have someone who's such a great role model, is it our tendency in society right now to find their weaknesses? Like, all humans have something in them that could make them look bad, and why are we pointing those out instead of focusing on all the positivity that they bring to the world? And I think that's just kind of Alex's view in general, is like accepting humans for who they are. And I really love this sequence here where Mr. Rogers is giving a speech here for his Lifetime Achievement Award. And he says, "So many people have helped me come to this night. All of us have special ones who have loved us into being. Would you take along with me 10 seconds to think of all the people who have helped you become who you are? On your mark." And then here you get Alex at school getting ready to run with the kids. So he says, "On your mark. Those who have cared about you and wanted what was best for you in your life. 10 seconds of silence. Get set. I'll watch the time. Go." And within that, you get all of the people that mattered to Mr. Rogers' life showing through here. And then you get this sequence of Alex playing with the kids, and over the course of the book has actually broken through with the Kevin character and made a difference in that kid's life, and winds up being that kid's favorite teacher. So the fact that he's wrapping in what he's learning, not just in terms of facts, but in terms of like wisdom and life lessons from Mr. Rogers, and showing that that has had an impact on his real life and allowed him to reach out to this kid who he was really having trouble with, I think is a beautiful little ending to that book. And so that's a autobiographical one. Then the other books are kind of like the Nicholas Offerman stuff, except a little bit more contained to the town. But this is a kind of sprawling epic, a down-to-earth epic about people just living in a little town. This book here, I didn't even realize was connected to the later works until I just got issue number 4 of Town and County. I thought it was its own self-contained story. So kind of like Offerman's work. At least this book, I don't know, because there's not as much of Alex's project out there yet. But this book works very well, self-contained. Town and County seems like it's an anthology series that's going to just collect all these stories and could kind of go on forever. Hopefully, will go on forever. There's also been some of Alex's work in the Rust Belt issues that I've reviewed. The Rust Belt anthology. He's had stuff in almost all of those. There's 5 of those out. And some of those that I didn't, some of them I realized were connected to Town and County. Some I didn't realize were connected to Town and County, Town and County, not Count and County. But this one, Lawns, is again just a really awesome, down-to-earth story about people like having their flaws, and also people's flaws perceived by others actually being their strength. So here you get a map of the town that this all happens in. The town, this is earlier in the town's history. You're introduced to Roger, who's the main character. He's got a very small house in town. He never mows his lawn, and his dog has been accused of biting other people, even though I don't think it was actually his dog that does it. And this is like an eyesore in the town. Everyone wants it cut down. So it kicks off, this is the point of contention in the story. You also get introduced to the mayor, Chuck. He has previously kind of got into his position by supposedly keeping a landfill company that would have brought jobs to the town out of town because it would be bad for the environment. And he hasn't had any competition to be mayor for a while. You get this third character, Carl, who's really pissed off about Roger and his lawn, and is basically generally pissed off about how Chuck's been handling things, and starts campaigning against him last minute in the election as a write-in. So the whole story is basically this political drama in a real small town, but it's really focused on all of the characters. There's an old woman that Roger hangs out with. They have a special little relationship. And I don't want to go too much more into it because I think you should really just read it and see how it plays out. But I did want to read this page here because I think it's really well written and well drawn. This is from Roger's point of view. He's talking about why he likes his lawn and things like that. "Stare at my lawn too. Don't like the way it looks. They keep their lawn short, neat, and clean, empty looking." So he's talking about everyone. He feels like he's always being stared at, and they stare at his lawn. My dog likes our lawn, likes to play in it. Other critters do too. Thing about my lawn is it's mine. Get to decide what to do with it. Don't get that a lot. Guess people don't like that either. I don't know why. Ask them and I bet they say don't know. Love the grass. It's always there. Even if it dies, it always comes back. Always like finding the longest blade of grass, let it blow in the wind. Wanted to keep my hair long, hide my face. And just in that 2-page spread with such simple words and such simple images and cartooning, you get like this real deep sense of this character. You get a deep sense of his introversion and how all these things relate to each other. And that's the power of Alex Nall as a writer. Alex Nall is a good, I would call, functional cartoonist. There's nothing flashy about it. There's nothing where you go, oh my God, the art in this book is so amazing. But everything is to the story. And I really like that about his work quite a bit. And the longer he goes, like the more there's moments of like where I go, oh yeah, that's a really great piece of cartooning or a really great drawing. Then Town and County is now what looks like the ongoing kind of one-man anthology that's allowing Alex to continue to explore our town. This is the town that we're in here. And again, you get this like little map of it. In this story, it's not in the other books, but I really like that he told me, well, the story number 1 is happening over on this character's farm. Story number 2 is happening at this house. This house is right next door to it. I really like that. That goes away in later issues, but that's okay. It's good to have this sense of town. I remember when me and Tori first started dating, she pulled up the image of her hometown on Google. Well, one of the many towns that she lived in, but one of the ones she remembers the most. She pulled up an image of the town in Oklahoma she grew up in, and it was probably half the size of this. So that's really interesting to me as well. Like I've always the smallest town the town I grew up in was probably 250,000 people, which is small for California, but I've always driven past towns like this and thought, God, like what it must be like to live there. And Alex obviously must have grown up in a town like this. I think now he's in Chicago, but he has some real experience with places like this and captures it so well. And I just think the project as a whole thing is beautiful. So in this book, you get introduced to Don. Don spent 25 years as a teacher. His wife, Rachel, has died. He's got 2 daughters who are going elsewhere. He's thinking about selling his farm and minimizing his life. And they come in these real short, like 1 pages, Don's diary, Don's daughters. And they're all written from Don writing. It's like Don writing in his diary. And so you get a sense of those characters. Here you're hearing about Don being a teacher, and he's talking about this kid he had in class that was a kind of a dummy. Said Grant Baker is taking over. He graduated 2 years ago, so this is the person that's coming in and replacing him as a faculty member there. And then he goes, I remember passing him in sophomore geography for the playoffs. So like his job now is being taken over by a guy that we know isn't very bright, because the only reason he passed his sophomore geography class is because they needed him on the football team. So kind of looking at a kid that like he was part of the privilege that kid had. Just a funny little moment about kind of the politics of things like that. Then you get introduced to, I think, one of the most iconic characters that shows up in a lot of the town and county related material. You have Sherman and also the gal he's dating, Susie. Sherman's in charge of the local grocery store. Susie is a cleaner. She's a house cleaner, and she's been cleaning. A lot of the stories about her cleaning the home of the Pepper family, Luann and Stanley Pepper's house, and their relationship is kind of falling apart. And just talking about what you learn about people from cleaning their house. So a bunch of just short stories in here that build like this picture of the town. This one is about a character named Matthew Gross. He was supposedly like the stud throughout high school. I don't know who the narrator in this one is supposed to be. My guess is that this is supposed to be Sherman, because Sherman kind of still hangs out with his high school buddies. Really interesting story though about someone who had it all and died in a kind of tragic way, and you realize, okay, well, this guy had a really full life, but the payment for that was a wild death, where the rest of us are going to have a quiet death, but also a quiet life. So just perceptions like that. There's a guy showing up in town who's obviously there to deal drugs, and he thinks a small town he'll be able to get away with it, and he's hiding drugs in a tree. That comes up much later. Here you're introduced to Sherman's two friends, Wallace, Willis, and there's another guy. I don't think he's on this page, but there's a group of friends that still hangs out. Wallace is kind of this wild conspiracy theory guy, and he'll show up in later issues. Here you can see like some of this is that functional cartooning stuff that I talked about, where it's just what you need to tell the story, but Alex is starting to show these moments also where I think he's really landing some just amazing cartoon drawings where you're like, God, I wish I could cartoon like that. And then there's other ones like this that I think are just, like I said, kind of functional and rubbery. But these drawings like this increase. So it's also fun to watch Alex throughout this project continue to grow. Like, again, I think this right here is a really great drawing. Then in Town and County 2, you pretty much pick up on most of these stories again. You get, oh, the other thing that's cool, and I must have lost, I forget if the first one didn't have this or if I just lost it, but issues 2 and 3 at least came with, and maybe it's just because I got it from Partners and Sons, it got, or I didn't know what it was in the box or something, I lost it, but they come with these little hometown heroes, which are like, join us at the church worship. They're like just the little flyers that you would get in a town like this. And there's a story. The reason why I think I'm missing the first one is there's also a story unfolding here where some characters are saying some bad things about someone else in town, and then someone writes back in the third one. But Alex is also using this to promote some other stuff that he enjoys, and his own, where you can get the comics and stuff like that. So really, really cool insert that totally conceptually fits with the theme of the book. You get more continuations of the stories. They work really well as one-offs, most of them. Some of them need more continuation, but he'll kind of let you know. But here again is the Peppers family falling apart. They have it really well, but then the husband's been fired recently and has gotten into drinking. Here you have the character that's cleaning their houses, Sally, but she's pretty happy in her life. I have a routine for once, which is good for me, even if it means spending hours at Luann Pepper's or Bonnie Brackett's house. Maybe that'll change for the better too. Who knows? So much feels possible right now. Her and Sherman are kind of in an undefined relationship where she's probably a little bit more into it than he is. You get a little bit more of Dawn, and Dawn with his son-in-law Chris. They're talking about should he sell the farm or not. So you're just learning more about his family. Then you get a thing here, which is really interesting because quite a different style, really nice composition, and shows a different mode for Alex Nall, where I think maybe he's looking at reference or something, but just the design of this and the sleekness of the lines and something about it feels kind of almost deco or something. I don't know. A really nice change of pace just to see the variety of what he can do. Here you start learning about another character, Andy. This is some really brutal scene right here, but you see Andy as a kid, and basically his mom has stole him and run away, and you see her coming out of the bathroom with a guy she's obviously just provided services to, and she's like, oh, hi honey, that nice man is going to give us a ride in his big truck. And then just like the awkward drive that he has to take with these characters. And then you see Andy as an adult being like a male stripper here. Not all of this takes place in that same small town. There's obviously a cluster of towns that people are moving between, but it all relates back to the town that's shown in the beginning, which is also happens to be the town that is in Lawns. That's what I didn't realize until issue 4 of this. And we also get here this reference to Wally not being able to keep a woman interested in him for more than one night. But you see here that this is referencing, oh, that's a story that's in Rust Belt Volume 4. So these stories aren't all collected in here either. It's like he's got this big project and he's just publishing it where he can. And that's pretty interesting to me as well. Hopefully one day this will, people will, see what this is. I think it takes, when I read the first issue, I thought this could be what this is. And now that it's playing out and I'm seeing that it is what it is, and reading it in pieces has been a little bit hard. So that's why I sat down and reread everything all as one chunk, and you see the big picture much better there. And yeah, I think this is something that should eventually be all hopefully collected in one big chunk so people don't have to go chasing down all these smaller pieces. In issue 3, again, you get this hometown hero. You have the continuation of this response to the ongoing dialogue that's been going there. That didn't quite make sense to me because I'm missing a piece of it, I think. And then again, some, just promos for other books. Here you see, I think that Alex has taken to digital drawing in this. There's a real distinct change in how he's trying stuff in this issue where he's balancing out these thick, juicy, cartoony lines against these really, really tiny lines here that look digitally done to me. And he hasn't quite figured that approach out yet, but it's cool to see him experimenting. I think this is a really nice drawing, and it shows also that if Alex wanted to, he could do like this super densely detailed comic that like kind of blows you away with all the details, but that's just not what he's interested in. He's a writer, and his cartooning is in service of the writing. That's what I take away with it. But he's also playing as an artist, and we'll see that throughout this book. We get things like this where you're having like this paper texture. It almost looks like he shaded on a piece of paper towel. I don't know if that's being done digitally or done physically and being scanned in. Here you get a story of this character Lyle basically growing up. We learn about this character and then we see him now. So it's another one of those things where every character that you bump into, you get a sense that they have a backstory that Alex knows, and you may or may not get you may or may not get let in on that at any given time, but you kind of want to know. He's really good at building that. Here you see that Sally, the interesting thing about her is she's having this conflict of faith and keeps kind of going back between Lutheran and Methodist, who's got the right view. And obviously she wants to talk to Sherman about it, but he won't talk to her about it. And that's referenced at the end of this book right here. It just seems like a gag. He goes over to her house and she says, "Welcome home, Mr. Supervisor. I've got theology on my mind. Questions that need answers. Maybe you got them." And you think that's just like a gag. But then you come to this book and you see she really is mulling over theology and she really is worried about it. Here's the Wally character again. He's just kind of going on this rant about this other character that hangs out with them, Jack Bell, who's like a cool, suave, hippie stoner guy. There's a really cool comics formalism in here where as Wally's ranting along this way, this Jack Bell character just keeps, no matter what he says, just replies like, yeah, man. And so you have that actually just said once and reiterated throughout, and it gives a nice like framing to the page. Alex is really smart about that. He knows it's a double page spread. He's putting it right where the staples are going to be. So just someone who's like really smart about comics in general. This is another thing here where I just had to write like that's comics. The combination of words and pictures. So wanted D. Lee to get something too. This is Don again talking about his daughters. He's visiting his daughters now. Wanted D. Lee to get something too. She kept wandering off, seemed distracted. And here you see her looking at this picture of a pregnant woman. So obviously she's pregnant and knows it, but he's not picking up on it. Dawn is not. After we checked out, she said, "Dad, there's something I need to tell you." So the reader totally knows what's going on, but he's kind of oblivious to it. And then obviously they go and have a conversation about that. And that's on the next page. Mom was quiet near the end. 5 years in a home. What's there to say? She did have moments, though. Remember her saying, "You think you have time, but you don't." Wasn't talking to me, just talking. 85 when she said that. Tried telling it to the girls as they grew up, but I never really knew what she meant. Now it's clear as rain. Dealey said she and Chris aren't ready for a family just yet. Talked about money, health care, job security. Wanted to say, you'll never have those things, hun. Least not at the start. But just nodded my head and said I understood. So there's a much like bigger emotional thing being implied there about it sounds like the daughter is asking him to help her get an abortion. But that's just kind of left between the lines, and he's able to nail it without really needing to tell it to you as explicitly as my dumbass is. He can just do it with a couple pictures here kind of setting up, even here having this menu where kids eat for free, and he's really like thinking about how great kids are. And then I don't know if he's tearing this or something else up, but seems like he's tearing up the kids eat for free thing. You see more of Alex playing as well, where there's like these ink wash textures or something. I don't know if these are being scanned and put in, if this is on the original art, if it's something that's done totally digitally, but it's interesting. It's good to see an artist still experimenting as they go along. Here you can see some more of that experimentation here. Also some really interesting things here where like Don references that his pin has burst on the plane. Should have got more, and you see that Alex has put it like the pen is running out of ink, and then you get Dawn here finally without any words. So it's just a lot of really cool stuff. And then the Dawn story ends there, and then you get a little bit more here of Sally on her religious search. Then here's issue number 4. I just got this one in the mail. Alex sent me a note with a little drawing on it, and we're going to be, I scheduled an interview with Alex, so really excited to talk to him, and I'll put that the day up after this comes out. This issue 4, instead of having the little tipped in like newsletter, actually has another version of the map of this town. This is Township 828, Illinois, Victoria County, founded 1878, unincorporated in 1996. And then this also has a bunch of just like notes and annotations about all the characters. And this is where it says, see Lawns. And it's like, oh crap, Lawns is part of this. And he's basically giving you a lot of background that either I haven't picked up on, it's not in the stories yet, or it's like he's telling you this is in this project, this is in this project here, this was published in Rust Belt. So he's kind of giving you this map now to help the reader stitch all this together. I think he's realizing that because the project is so spread out and he knows what it all is, that the reader might not. So that was really cool and really smart, and I enjoyed that. It confirmed for me like what I was hoping this all was, and seeing that it tied to Lawns made it really exciting, because it's that same approach that I was so raving about with Nicholas Offerman. Really seeing these two guys do it has helped me solve a problem for a certain story I want to tell, and given me some ideas of working in a similar manner to this. So apologies guys, but fucking brilliant, and I'm gonna do my own spin on it one day, hopefully, if I have time and resources. But these two guys are badass, man. They're making this happen on top of their jobs, and they're putting out killer work pretty frequently. Here we have now this character is referencing his second cousin Don Homer, who has just died. Don's farm is coming up. They're referencing that there was a screwy election. The guy nobody liked won. He didn't know what he was doing, and things got screwy. So it's a bit of a history about how the town fell apart, and it's related to the story in Lawns, which I think is really cool. Here's the character Mary Ann, who runs a restaurant in town. We've seen her in other stories as well. This is another example where I think Alex is really finding his cartooning style. I really like the way he does like those old knuckles on the hands. So just seeing the art continue to grow. After two issues of not mentioning it at all, there's a lot of people back in town for Dawn's funeral, and the characters are talking about, oh, we're going to get these drugs out of the park, but then there's a funeral going on. Another one of these ones where you see the kind of what Alex can really do in terms of composition and art that he's usually just holding back on because it's unnecessary for the story. And then Alex was also super, super kind and sent along an original drawing here that's done on two pieces of very small paper that like would come together to make the picture. And it looks like it's the first version of this panel here, but it's not the same. There's a lot of stuff being added to it and some minor changes, including like what's written on this character's shirt, and this guy with the kid behind him now is just someone that's waving. So that's really awesome for a project that I'm so excited about. It's really cool to just get some pieces of original art and be able to keep them like in the book right next to it. See some of the artist's process, and I don't know what about this one said I got to redo it. And then also to see there's some other drawing that he had done. This looks like original art that was done on the back, and it didn't need it, so just cut it up. So kind of getting a peek into how Alex works as well. Really, really high on this series. I think this is really great stuff. It is living up in the 4 issues I have, and then Lawns. Now that I know that that's part of the series, it's living up to what I was hoping it would be when all I had was Town and County #1. I was like, oh my God, this is kind of what I've been looking for. This could go, it basically I've been wanting to read whatever, a real ensemble piece that follows the lives of multiple characters over long spans of time, but is entirely grounded and earthbound. And Alex is doing that very well. I saw the potential for that when I first read this, and now that I understand the scope of where I think he's headed with this, much more excited about it. I hope this is something he's able to. I don't know what his hopes are for it. I think like with Nicholas Offerman, it's pretty clear that that's his life project. I get the sense that this might be Alex's life project, but maybe not. Maybe there's an end to all of this. But I would be completely thrilled to be reading Town and County stories, homespun stories for the rest of my life and the rest of Alex's career. Really great stuff. Tune in tomorrow for an interview with Alex. I'm really excited to talk to him. I haven't talked to him at the time I recorded this, but really excited for that. And please go get yourself all of Alex's work. I think it's really well worth supporting, and I think that this is a project that with the right support can continue on and become one of the great comics of our time. House on Fire by Matt Battaglia is a just gorgeous book where Matt's kind of making an emotional response to the years of COVID and wrapping that into a sci-fi dystopian future that really the sci-fi dystopian's backgrounded, and you're focused on the emotional journey of 2 characters in a really beautiful way. And then that's enhanced by Matt's like really awesome, loose, kind of Paul Popish dry brush work. And then Sean and Matt have worked to get this second kind of orange spot color in there that's going to look really beautiful, and has allowed Matt to use his dry brush technique to add tone to the thing too. So with Sean's production technique, this is going to be a gorgeous book with a lot of heart.
Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.